Good evening. It's Saturday, July 18th, 7:52 p.m. Take a look at Warometers. Has reset it and look at the latest news. Number one was USA with 63,000. Two, India 37,000. Brazil third, 26,000. South Africa fourth, 13,000. Trend continues, but India, I don't think it's ever reported anywhere near 37,000. They're surpassing Brazil now. In terms of deaths, Brazil number one at 885. USA number two, 813. In Mexico, third, 736. India, fourth, 543. Uh, so France, Spain, and Sweden didn't report. It's a little odd. China with their obvious, fake numbers. Denmark didn't report. Cameroon didn't report. So these numbers are gonna get added in at some point. You have Venezuela didn't report. Nicaragua didn't report. UB2E, I'm not gonna try to pronounce that, but they didn't report. Yeah, so this number is gonna change as they report, but they're not gonna add it into today's tally. They're gonna add it into to this tally right here that we're looking at, and that's, it's a sly way to be sneaky and report without people noticing. But some of us we see through it and we notice it. So I'm gonna look at the USA state by state. It's the weekend, Saturday, tomorrow, Sunday. Before we would expect small numbers, but that's a thing of the past. We're getting big numbers every single day now. Number one state was Florida, 10,000. California, second, 8,000. Texas, third, 7,900. Georgia, fourth, 4,000. Top deaths, Arizona, 147. Florida, 93. California, 91. Texas, 75. So tomorrow should be a slow day, as well as Monday. Now for today's news. Quebec becomes the first province in Canada to require mask wearing in all indoor public places. USA, map shows millions of children will finally return to school in August, despite surging SARS-2 cases, with only a handful of states delaying their start date for the academic year. It will be the first time millions of students have been in the classroom since schools shuttered across the country back in mid-March. Most states are requiring schools to follow safety protocols released by the CDC, which include social distancing and mask wearing. Trump and Education Secretary DeVos have been pushing for a full reopening of schools across the country. Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany told reporters, when President Trump says open, he means open in full. Kids being able to attend each and every day at their school. The science should not stand in the way of this. So these politicians, usual, thinking always with a genocidal state of mind. Officials in Miami on Friday announced an 8 p.m. curfew along South Beach and Broward County as Florida topped 10,000 daily cases for the 10th time. Authorities hope the curfew will cut down on partying, which is suspected of fueling SARS-2 spread. Alongside surge in new SARS-2 cases, deaths are now rising again. Yeah, we're seeing a lot more news now that the deaths are going back up. And even then, they're still severely underreported. Amid significant increase of SARS-2 patients, hundreds of thousands of healthcare workers are getting laid off due to loss of profits. Nearly 1.5 million healthcare workers lost their jobs in a single month this spring. Profits are a major driver of employment decisions, even in an industry that claims to prioritize community health. 29-year-old Carter Wright tested positive for SARS-2 in March and then again last week. The 29-year-old said the experience of falling sick twice has been overwhelming and daunting. I cried a lot that night, he said. The first time he got sick, he experienced black spots in his vision. That's a new one. I know I've seen cases of people going blind for temporarily blind in one eye, but I never heard about black spots. Those probably didn't go away. He still probably had them by the second time too. The second time his throat became too raw to drink tea. Eventually he came down with a fever and went to the emergency room. His case adds to the increasing evidence that SARS-2 immunity may not last that long. Yeah, we're seeing a lot more evidence of this. It's very concerning. Iran estimates up to 25 million SARS-2 cases since outbreak, nearly doubling the total worldwide caseload report. President Rouhani said he believes an additional 30 to 35 million people could be infected in the coming months. Yet India is a very, very large place, and their testing is severely behind compared to Brazil and the United States. And based off their deaths, just the same thing for Mexico. We wouldn't be surprised if this was accurate. 85 infants have tested positive for SARS-2 in one Texas county, as the U.S. sets new record. These babies have not even had their first birthdays yet. Please help us to stop the spread of this disease, the Nueces County Public Health Director said. We know that SARS can give permanent organ damage to its people that it infects, to the point where these people end up with it for the rest of their lives. People are alive right now who were crippled from SARS way back in 2003. But not that many people got SARS. It wasn't that infectious. We're talking about a few thousand. We're talking about the potential of millions of babies catching this SARS-2, and they still don't know how. We have no way to tell chronic infections because it's a new virus. But if SARS can do lifelong crippling organ damage, then this is not looking good for all these babies that are catching the virus when we still don't understand the chronic infections and why it happens and why it doesn't, and it's just not looking good for the new generation being born right now. Young people are increasingly driving SARS-2 spread. There's a sense that a lot of young people There's a sense that a lot of young people think that, you're young, think you're invincible. California Governor Newsom said that can be a selfish mindset. Lyft to install SARS-2 sneeze guards in driver cars. Super spreading events triggered by people who may not even know they are infected propel SARS-2 pandemic. We really need help. SARS-2 overwhelms rural Oregon. The pandemic that's sweeping through major U.S. cities is now wreaking havoc on rural communities. In Oregon's Umatilla County, infections are overwhelming limited sources in a place where farmers grow potatoes, onions, and grains. The county has Oregon's highest number of infections per capita. Across rural America, the virus is swamping healthcare systems and piling responsibility on government workers who often perform multiple jobs they never signed up for. Pennsylvania, 44 warnings issued to liquor establishments for not complying with SARS-2 rules by the police. So I'm pretty sure a lot of the spread is coming out of stores and businesses just not practicing the right protocol to keep people safe, and that's why they're issuing all these warnings out. Indiana, the Posey County Health Department is urging people who attended the Cynthiana Town Yard Sale on July 11th to self-isolate after a number of SARS-2 cases were linked to that event. Florida, the percentage of positive SARS-2 cases and number of deaths is increasing daily, said Sandy Martin, the Jackson County Health Department health officer, in a news release. The virus is here, and our friends and loved ones are dying from it. The Florida Division of Emergency Management closed down part of its facilities after 12 employees tested positive for SARS-2. India, jewelry worth lakhs and Rs 50,000 in cash were burgled from a house near Kolkata on Saturday, after most of the family members had to be admitted to the hospital with SARS-2, police said. 4 members of the family are in the hospital after they tested positive for SARS-2. They were tested and found to be positive after a member of the family died of the disease recently. Isn't that something? Your whole family gets put into a hospital, and people will take advantage of it, and they rob you for it while you're in there dying. I mean, jokes on them if they catch it stealing their infected belongings. Florida. 4 area prisons are continuing to battle outbreaks of SARS-2 among hundreds of inmates and staff members. Hospitals admit more and younger SARS-2 patients in Southwest Virginia. I mean, the majority for a while now that are getting infected are the young. So yeah, eventually they're gonna swamp in the hospitals. Texas, SARS-2 Community Task Force hands out Rona bags in Bell County. They are filled with sanitizer, thermometers, masks, soap, and more to people in areas where not everyone is able to get their hands on much needed items. 18. South Mississippi long-term care facilities report SARS-2 cases in residents and staff. India, blood donation activity has been hit hard for the last 2 weeks. There was visible scare prevalent among the blood donors who feared visiting blood donation camps. We appeal to people who are healthy and can donate their blood to please donate their blood to save lives. Texas, 1,000 Texas inmates test positive in just one federal prison, report says. India, Bollywood actress and former Miss World Aishwarya Rai Bachchan and her daughter Aradhya were admitted to Mumbai's Nanavati Hospital Friday night. Bachchan, one of India's most famous actresses, and her daughter both tested positive last week, along with two other family members. Her husband, Abhishek Bachchan, and father-in-law, Amitabh Bachchan, were admitted to the same hospital in Mumbai last week after swab test results came back positive. Both are also famous actors in India. So I had talked about this before, just to update on the story. It's getting worse. They're all in the hospital now. Israel. Thousands of Israelis took to the streets across the country Saturday night to protest the latest SARS-2 restrictions in the government's management of the crisis. As the number of sick people continues to shoot up, the government's flip-flopping has left the public frustrated and confused. That's a shame, really. Here's a place that always bragged about being a developed high power, and now they're crumbling from the inside out. Older children spread SARS-2 just as much as adults, large study finds. The study of nearly 65,000 people in South Korea suggests that school reopenings will trigger more outbreaks. So yes, as you can see, it's again continuing to intensify. I did read a study, I might talk about it later, that just came out today that said that it's not peer reviewed, but I mean everything starts off not being peer reviewed. But it says that people who are asymptomatic, who are showing the organ damage in their CT scans, and now this is a lot of people. The reason why they are asymptomatic is because the virus is causing them to not feel the pain, kind of acting like as a pain reliever. Otherwise, these people who are asymptomatic would actually be in pain because of this organ damage that's being found in the CT scans. So that could explain why we have so many people who are asymptomatic who are leaving the hospitals, or not even, or just kind of walking around with bad CT scans, because the virus is causing them to not feel the pain. If this is true, imagine what would happen if they did feel the pain. Hospitals would be even more collapsed than they are right now. So we'll see where I go with that. I'll take a look into it later. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.